making headlines this hour. The cabinet decides to work towards making the Maldives the country with the lowest number of people held in pre-trial detention. Minister of Youth Empowerment, Sports and Fitness Abdullah Rafiu says sports associations are improving the financial management following measures introduced by the government to address risk in their financial operations that could create opportunities for corruption. The Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee approved sweeping amendments to the Foreign Exchange Act, making it a criminal offense to sell or advertise US dollars at rates that diverge from those set by the Maldives Monetary Authority.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to PSM News in English with me, Hafiz Abdul Sattar. Now the news in detail. President Dr. Mohamed Muiz says the Maldives has a duty to speak clearly against violence targeting humanitarian personnel and to defend vulnerable people.
In a message marking World Humanitarian Day, President Muiz said the Maldives stood in firm solidarity with humanitarian workers around the world who risk their lives to serve humanity. He said the need for humanitarian assistance was growing amid conflicts, displacements, hunger, and climate-related crises. The president said the collapse of humanitarian protection was particularly evident in Gaza, where he described the obstruction of humanitarian aid, blockades, and violence against relief workers as grave violation of international law. He strongly condemned such violations, reaffirmed the Maldives' solidarity with the Palestinian people, and called for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. President Muiz said small states depend on a rules-based international order in which international law was upheld equally for all. As a party of the Fourth Geneva Convention, the Maldives remain committed to international humanitarian law and the protection of civilians and humanitarian personnel. The president called on all countries to respect humanitarian operations and uphold the principle of humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and independence. The president also paid tribute to humanitarian workers who risk and often lose their lives while helping others. He said their sacrifices required the international community to guarantee the safety and protection of humanitarian personnel. President Muiz reiterated the message in a post on his official X account. World Humanitarian Day is observed annually on the 19th of August to honor aid workers killed or injured while working in crisis zones and to recognize those who risk their lives to provide life-saving assistance.
The cabinet decides to appoint representatives from every inhabited island to participate in a national campaign to raise awareness of the dangers of tobacco and nicotine.
In the first phase of the campaign, at least one association from each atoll, along with several associations from the Malé area, will be involved. At its meeting, the cabinet made several important decisions concerning public awareness of the dangers of tobacco and nicotine, the implementation of the generational ban, and other government projects. During the meeting, a subcommittee reviewing cigarette import duty rates presented updates on its works. Taking the committee's finding into consideration, the cabinet decided to incorporate measures relating to implementing the generational ban through the school system into the national campaign on the dangers of tobacco and nicotine. It also decided that the Ministry of Health, Family and Welfare should establish a system through which the campaign can be rolled out in coordination with the Ministry of Education, Higher Education and Skills Development. To ensure broad participation by civil society organizations across the Maldives, the Health Ministry will appoint a representative from each inhabited island to participate in the campaign. In the first phase, the cabinet has decided to involve at least one association from each atoll as well as several associations from the Malé area. The cabinet also decided to expand the national campaign on the dangers of tobacco and nicotine with the participation of youth associations and groups active in sports across the islands. To achieve the goal of having national teams comprise athletes who do not use tobacco, specific targets will also be established to encourage athletes to stay away from tobacco use.
The cabinet decides to set specific targets to ensure that athletes who participate in national teams remain completely free from tobacco use. The decision was made at a cabinet meeting which also discussed key decisions related to raising public awareness of the dangers of tobacco and nicotine, implementing the generational ban and other government projects. In addition, the Cabinet has decided to expand the national campaign to raise awareness about the dangers of tobacco and nicotine with the participation of youth associations across the islands and organizations involved in sports. At the Cabinet meeting, the Cabinet also reviewed the progress of the national campaign on the dangers of tobacco and nicotine. A subcommittee established to review cigarette import duty rates also presented an update on its work. The Cabinet decides to further strengthen some of the rules currently in place for the issuance of SIM cards. The President's office said several important decisions were made at a Cabinet meeting. Among them, the Cabinet decided to ensure that legal and administrative action is taken against individuals registered as the owners of mobile SIM cards being sent to prisons. The President's office also said that as part of efforts to strengthen regulations governing the issuance of mobile SIM cards in the Maldives, measures will be introduced to ensure that unskilled foreign workers are not issued more than one SIM card per person. In addition, the Cabinet decided that replacement numbers will not be issued in cases where a SIM card is damaged or lost except through a specific process involving a report to the police. The Cabinet meeting also decided to take the necessary measures to make the Maldives one of the countries with the lowest number of people held in detention pending investigations or without a court verdict in various cases. The Cabinet decides to begin work to transform the Special Needs Centre in Guradu, Kafetol, into a modern facility offering comprehensive services.
The Special Needs Center in Guradu currently operates from a building that is more than 50 years old. The Cabinet decided to improve the center's facilities and operations. Under the decision, the center will be upgraded into a state-of-the-art facility providing comprehensive services. The Cabinet has also decided to undertake the work with the support and assistance of relevant parties. As part of efforts to upgrade the center in Guradu, the government has also decided to construct a new accommodation block. When the government took over the center, it faced a shortage of resource and facilities. The government said it first had to improve arrangements for beds and food for those staying at the center. The government's current policy is to ensure that people leaving special care centers are able to reintegrate into society by providing them and their families with the information and support they need before they return to the community. The center is also focusing on helping those who wish to find employment after completing treatment by providing them with opportunities and support to establish independent and dignified lives. At the same time, the center is working to help families view those who have completed treatment as individuals capable of managing their own lives rather than a burden on their families. Speaking in Parliament last June, Minister of Health, Family and Welfare Gila Ali revealed that 60 people who had been staying at the center had received treatment and subsequently been reintegrated into society.
The Cabinet decides to work towards making the Maldives the country with the lowest number of people held in pre-trial detention. The large number of people who remain in detention while awaiting the completion of court proceedings has been a concern for various parties. President Dr. Mohamed Muiz has previously said that addressing the issue would receive a special priority. At a Cabinet meeting held on Sunday, several important decisions were made concerning government initiatives and social issues facing the country. Among them was a decision to work towards making the Maldives the country with the lowest number of people detained for investigation without a court ruling. The growing number of people held in detention pending the completion of court proceedings, commonly referred to as pre-trial detention, is a major concern in several countries. Since assuming office, President Dr. Muiz has introduced several changes aimed at addressing issues concerning people held in pre-trial detention. The president has said that successive governments had exerted influence over the judiciary and that this practice has now been brought to an end. He said this was achieved by allocating a separate budget for the judiciary. President Dr. Moise has also assured that the Prosecutor General's office will fully carry out its responsibilities to resolve the cases of all individuals who have remained in pre-trial detention for more than a year. He has also said on various occasions that the government will give a special priority to finding fair solutions to the cases of people held in detention. The judiciary has identified space constraints faced by the courts, particularly the criminal court, is a key reason for cases remaining unresolved for prolonged periods. To address the issue, the government opened an annex of the Justice building in Hulmale and allocated the operations of the criminal court to the building. Following the move, the Judicial Service Commission (JSC) has noted that the number of cases concluded by the criminal court has increased several-fold. The Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee approves sweeping amendments to the Foreign Exchange Act, making it a criminal offence to sell or advertise US dollars at rates that diverge from those set by the Maldives Monetary Authority (MMA).
The bill, which has been referred to the committee for review, passed by a majority of members present, and now includes a tiered penalty structure expressed in US dollars. Under the revised law, any person or entity that sells or attempts to sell foreign currency outside the MMA's official bands will face a fine of $1,620 to $64,800, depending on the seriousness of the breach. The measure also targets marketing practices, advertising, promotion, or otherwise disseminating information that encourages transactions at non-compliant rates is punishable by a $1,620 to $32,400 fine. Corporate offenders are not exempt. Companies caught buying, selling, or advertising foreign exchange at unauthorized rates will be liable to penalties ranging from $6,480 to $324,200. The amendments were moved by Funadu MP Mohammad Mamdouh, who argued that transparent regulated exchange rates are essential for protecting the country's tourism-driven economy and preventing profiteering against consumers. The amendment adds to the original proposed move, stipulating that all foreign currency earnings, whether from tourism operators or any entity that generated at least $25 million in foreign revenue in the previous calendar year, must be deposited into an account at an MMA licensed bank with details reported to the authority. Category A tourism establishments will now be obliged to convert 20% of their monthly foreign currency earnings into MVR.
Minister of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment Abdullah Rafiu says sports associations are improving their financial management following measures introduced by the government to address risk in their financial operations that could create opportunities for corruption.
The Anti-Corruption Commission began a study in 2024 to identify corruption risk within the sports sector. The Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Sports and Fitness has since introduced several measures to strengthen the management of sports associations. The ministry said one of the main issues identified when reviewing their operations was poor financial management. The ACC report also identified the failure to audit sports association as one of the major issues in the sector. The ministry said it has now addressed the issue after associations raised concerns over difficulties in securing auditors. Following discussions between the ministry and the Maldives Olympic Committee (MOC), auditors are now being arranged for sports association through the MOC. The ministry has also changed the way it disperses funds to sports associations, with funding now released quarterly. The associations that fail to provide detail on how their allocated funds were spent will not receive funding for the following quarter. Minister Rafiu said strengthening the management of the sports sector cannot be achieved through regulations alone. He said it is also important to raise awareness of integrity among those managing sports organizations as well as coaches and athletes. To support this, the ministry has begun conducting a series of specialized training programs aimed at improving governance and providing training in financial management. Minister Rafiu said the programs are being carried out under the supervision of the Commissioner of Sports with strong cooperation from sports associations. Minister Rafiu added that the government aims to provide young people with a transparent and trustworthy sporting environment and said the government would continue to support the sports sector.
Prosecutor General Abbas Sharif says the delivery of justice will be expedited through the integration of artificial intelligence and the digitalization of operations within the Prosecutor General's office.
The initiative, dubbed PGO 2.0, is a 2-year modernization program undertaken by the office to integrate artificial intelligence tools and streamline workflows. Abbas explained during an appearance on Public Service Media's Rajya Miyadu program that under the current structure, substantial delays occur when investigative agencies submit case files requiring physical scanning and extensive reviews before reaching determinations on charges. Under the upgraded digital framework, initial file processing will take 15 minutes once electronic materials reach prosecutors. Because proprietary artificial intelligence tools are developed internally, the office eliminates risks of exposing confidential personal data to third parties. The technological overhaul will also accelerate legal advisory services, shortening response times for investigative documents from 5 days to the same day, while more exhaustive research will reduce court review times. Fully funded by the government with a budget of $778,210.12 the project will diminish public administrative burdens and accelerate access to prosecutorial services.
The Maldives and Russia holds discussions on strengthening transport links and increasing the number of flights between the two countries.
The discussions took place during a meeting between Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation Mohammad Amin and Russian Federation State Secretary and Deputy Minister of Transport Dmitry Zverev in Moscow as part of Minister Amin's ongoing visit to Russia. The meeting covered a broad range of measures to expand air connectivity and increase the number of flights operating between the Maldives and Russia. Minister Amin described the discussion as significant and expressed hope that they would lead to an increase in flight frequencies between the two countries. He said increasing air connectivity would also be an important step towards attracting more tourists to the Maldives. Tourism statistics for the first 5 months of this year show that Russian tourists account for 13% of arrivals to the Maldives, representing a 21% increase compared with the same period last year. More than 130,000 Russian tourists have visited the Maldives so far this year. Russia currently ranks as the Maldives' second largest source market for tourist arrivals. Tourism accounts for a significant share of the Maldives' revenue. Relevant ministries and companies continue to undertake efforts to market the Maldives internationally and attract tourists from different parts of the world. Efforts to bring additional airlines to Velana International Airport will also form part of discussions during the ongoing visit to Russia. MACL is participating in the high-level government delegation visiting Moscow and St. Petersburg from 17th to 21st August. The delegation includes Minister of Tourism and Civil Aviation Mohammad Amin and officials from the Transport Ministry, along with representatives from Visit Maldives Cooperation, MACL, Maldivian Resort Life Travel, Intour Maldives, and private tourism companies. As part of the visit, the delegation will meet government authorities, airlines, tour operators, and travel trade representatives in both cities, with discussions also focusing on strengthening the Maldives' presence in the Russian market and working more closely with partners promoting the destination.
China urges respect for each country's digital sovereignty after a report the US would ask countries to choose sides in the artificial intelligence race with Beijing.
China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian said at a regular briefing that China is opposed to taking sides and forming camps on AI. The US is preparing to tell dozens of countries they must pick sides in the artificial intelligence race with China, warning they will be excluded from a US-led AI coalition if they also sign up for Beijing's competing framework, according to a US official and an internal draft reviewed by Reuters. About 24 countries have joined the Pax Silica initiative launched by Washington last year, including Kazakhstan, a key potential source of critical minerals that has also joined China's coalition, as well as close US allies such as Japan, Australia, and South Korea.
UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric says that the United Nations and its humanitarian partners have provided aid to 3,000 people in 3 Colombian departments following a deadly earthquake.
The spokesperson said the assistance delivered to Choco, Valle del Cauca, and Risaralda includes water, sanitation, and hygiene support, healthcare, and food. The effort complements the Colombian government's response. Dujarric said the United Nations had also established a coordination hub in the western city of Pereira to work with local authorities.
We, along with our humanitarian partners, have provided assistance to 3,000 people across the Department of Choco, Valle del Cauca, and Risaralda. Complementing the government-led response, our OCHA colleagues say the support includes water, sanitation, hygiene, health, and food. We've also established a coordination hub in Pereira to work alongside local authorities.
More than 186,000 people have been affected and over 300 killed, according to local authorities cited by the United Nations. Almost 30,000 homes were damaged beyond repairs, while hundreds of health and educational facilities were also severely damaged. The extent of the destruction was still being determined as assessments of damage and humanitarian needs continued across the affected areas.
Brandon Nakashima stuns a 4th seed Daniil Medvedev 6-7, 7-6, 6-1 in the Cincinnati Open 3rd round to complete another standout performance in a breakthrough summer.
Nakashima looked in control from the start, breaking Medvedev from a 4-2 lead and moving within a game of the opening set after a dominant hold. Yet the Russian dug in, saving 4 set points before breaking back as Nakashima faltered while serving for the set, then taking control of the tiebreak with a backhand passing shot down the line. Nakashima refused to fold, however, matching Medvedev hold for hold in the second set and saving 3 match points before edging another tiebreak to force a decider. Medvedev then lost his rhythm and composure in the deciding set as Nakashima raced away, breaking twice to seal victory. It was Nakashima's first win in 4 meetings with Medvedev, who beat the American in the Brisbane final earlier this year and had won 6-1 in sets against him entering the match. Nakashima arrived in Cincinnati in strong form after reaching the semi-finals in Washington and his first Masters 1000 final in Montreal, and improved to 10-2 on the summer hard-court swing with Tuesday's victory.
Hundreds of unique vinyl record sleeves, each inspired by one of 7 tracks by artists including John Lennon and Gabriel, goes on display in London as War Child launched its Secret 7 charity auction.
The twist to the project: the track linked to each artwork remains a mystery until the record lands with the buyer, whether it's Skin's Purple or Bastille's Hope for the Future. The 7 tracks have been each pressed 100 times onto 7-inch vinyl, creating 700 limited edition records. According to the charity, funds raised will help deliver specialist mental health support, emergency aid, education and protection to vulnerable children in places such as Sudan, Ukraine, Gaza, and Afghanistan. Artist Claire Tommy said she was excited to be involved in the auction's 10th year, adding that the project felt like a way to make real change. For her, art and politics are inseparable because to make the effort to pick up a tool and make a mark, you are political in that moment.
I think art is always politics, whether it's what you want to hear, but it's a way that gives such clear voice to so many people. So even the things you think may not be political, to make the effort to pick up a tool and make a mark, you are political in that moment.
Other contributors to the auction include French artist Thierry Noir, known for painting long stretches of the Berlin Wall from 1984 until it fell in 1989, and Orlando Weeks of the Maccabees. Across 9 previous editions, Secret 7 has raised over 900,000 British pounds with one sleeve. The Cure frontman Robert Smith's design of his own record, selling for £3,500 in 2025. Organizers hope this year will push the total past 1 million British pounds. War Child's UK's head of music, Rich Clark, said political messaging in songs may have dwindled since the turn of the 21st century, but artists will wield significant influence through social media and on-stage commentary. The auction, which is being run online, will be live until September the 2nd.
And that's all we have for this hour. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant time ahead.